Johnny Dollar.
Miss Dollar, this is Lawrence Penworthy Thurston, sir.
Thurston?
Yes, sir. I am the local representative for the State Unity Life Insurance Company down here.
Down where, Mr. Thurston?
Casey, South Carolina, sir.
Casey, that's somewhere near Columbia, the state capital, isn't it?
Yes, sir. It's practically a part of it. And while you're down here, you all must be sure to visit our fine old state house and some of the other fine old historical places we have and are mighty proud of.
While I'm down there?
You can come right away, I hope, sir.
Well, I don't see any reason why not.
Good.
What seems to be the trouble, Mr. Thurston?
Well, I'm afraid, sir, that one of our most important clients, at least wise from the standpoint of all the insurance that she carries with us.
Yeah?
Well, it looks to me as though somebody might be wanting to kill this fine lady.
To collect the insurance, hmm?
Well, sir, now, I didn't say that, but if you all are free, I'd suggest you come on down here and kind of look the situation over.
Mr. Thurston, I think you're right.
The CBS Radio Network brings you Mandel Kramer in the exciting adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account. America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator,
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to the State Unity Life Insurance Company office in Casey, South Carolina. Following is an account of expenses incurred during my investigation of the all-wet matter. Expense account item 1, 5110 plane fare, Hartford to New York to Columbia, South Carolina. It was close to midnight when the plane set down at the airport. So, item 2, a total of $18.50, covers a cab into the DeSoto Hotel, a late supper, some of that well-known pounding of the pillow, then breakfast and a taxi to the office of State Unity over in Casey. The office happens to be on State Street, not far away from station WCAY, which incidentally carries the radio reports of these cases of mine every week. The insurance man, Thurston, turned out to be a round, pleasant, white-haired fellow in his early 60s with a soft, warm southern accent so thick you could cut it with a knife.
All right now, Miss Dollar. Would you all care for a cigar?
Thank you, but I'll smoke one of these cigarettes, if you don't mind.
Not at all, not at all. That's what my friends up north always smoke up there where they make them.
Up north?
North Carolina, Virginia, way up there.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, but all right now, Miss Dollar. This client of mine is a fine lady by the name of Miss Melanie Ramsey Pembroke.
And you said it looks to you.
And Miss Dollar,
yes,
she comes from one of the finest, wealthiest old families we got around here.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Dates back to 1718 on the Ramsey side. That is, when they first put up old Fort Congaree just south of here, a place they call Granby. Fort was to keep away the Indians, named after the Congaree River.
Yes.
Or maybe it was the other way around. The river named after the fort. Anyhow, that was long before the war. I mean the war.
Yes, I'm sure it was. Now, Mr. Thurston...
Anyhow, her great-great-grandfather, or maybe it was her great-great-great... Well, anyhow, Colonel Jacob Ramsey got a hold of thousands of acres all over these parts. And Miss Dollar, the Ramsey side of that family's had money ever since. And that includes up to the present.
Yes, now you said that this Mrs. Ramsey Pembroke...
That's right, sir. Miss Melanie Ramsey Pembroke lives in the one fine big old home over in Ramseyville. You just take the Platte Springs Road out of Casey and you follow the sign and you can't miss it.
And what's happened to her?
Well, miss,